being poor sucks. Being poor is the worst thing that can happen to you. The first thing that you should be taught in school by your parents growing up is not only to master the money energy but to dominate it. This here, okay, let me speak to you. Imagine you are so maybe you are a little girl, 12 years old, and you accidentally fell on my page and you're watching this video. You're 12 years old and your parents are low income, experience scarcity of money, money problems, things like that. What you need to tell yourself every day is, I love money and money loves me. I love money and money loves me. I am money's blessed child. I am money's blessed girl. And you focus on getting good grades, regardless of your circumstances, getting good grades. You focus on getting into creative activities, anything that is free. You get your hands on paint, on color pencils, color markers, papers. You draw, you paint. You spend as much time as you can outside looking up to the sky, looking at the clouds, looking at the flowers. And if you live in a place where it's only concrete, you dream. You dream. You find pictures of beautiful places. You plaster them on your wall so that when you wake up in the morning, all you see is beautiful gardens, beautiful palaces, beautiful dresses. You stay away from social media. You stay away from screens. You stay away from TV. And when your parents start talking about money, when you see your parents experiencing arguments, stress, depression, anxiety relating to money, you tell yourself, it's not my story, it's their story. My story is that money loves me and I love money. Money cherishes me and I cherish money. Money is the greatest relationship I have in this world, and it is the truth. And if you come from a rich family, someone like me, who's privileged, but who experienced a lot of guilt, a lot of toxic money programming, because I grew up in a political family, so I saw a lot of people doing bad things with money, a lot of bad money, corruption and transactions. I used to feel very guilty when we went to the restaurants and we basically just cut the line and we were received like kings and queens and princesses. I used to, bow down my head, bend my head, and avoid looking at people because I was like, they've been waiting and yet I'm being ushered. I felt immense guilt. If you're like me, just consider the fact that, again, this is not your story, it's your family's story. Your story with money has to be a love story. Your story with money has to be to understand that money gives you everything. Money literally is the core, the foundation of everything. This is the sole contract we have made upon being born on this earth. Money. If you don't master money, if you don't dominate money, the rest doesn't make sense. The rest is just sour. Are there plenty of poor people who have good morals, who are good people? Yes. But consider that. Even though I had this guilt programming with money, I also saw how every Saturday my mother would have hundreds of people, minimum 30, 40 people waiting, sitting in front of our home, waiting for their turn to go and speak to my mother, tell my mom about their problems, and my mom would just hand them cash. This is first-hand charity. First-hand charity. I'm not talking about the organized charity that my mom has done, all of the philanthropy that she's doing and she's done over the years. This is just me seeing my mom every Saturday sitting in our living room on the same couch, being dressed and waiting for people coming one by one and telling their story, their problem, whether it was them not being able to pay for the hospital, them not being able to pay for school, them having a funeral, them having whatever problem it was, and my mom would just give them money. $500, $2,000, $5,000, whatever. Just literally pour it from her heart. She didn't have to do it. This is the way she chose to spend her money. I remember a situation where I was already a student. If you know a little bit of my background, I left my country when I was 17 years old. I had this big programming of guilt, and I wanted to be away from the life of privilege and the lack of freedom that I felt that I had, because I felt like I lived in an aquarium. Everything that we did was known. People just gossiped about us. People knew my face when I went to places. Basically, my name preceded me anywhere I went. So I wanted to go as far as possible as I could. I had been accepted in two of the greatest universities in Paris. One of them you may know is Sorbonne, because I wanted to study, and I did study international relations, political science, but I decided to go as far as I could away from my family. Actually, fun fact, I just came back from Marrakesh, and I was at the same place in Marrakesh less than a week ago. So this place is called Bacha Coffee. If you go to Marrakesh, I highly recommend it. It's in the Champs-Élysées. So where was I? So I went to the US, and basically my parents cut me off. They said, okay, you want to live your life, you want to experience freedom, you want to live life on your own. They did give me an envelope full of money, but I had never been an adult responsible with money. I only had my allowance money. I used to spend a lot of money from my parents, when we traveled, go to shopping, whatever. I never handled cash. So needless to say, that money just disappeared like very fast. So I found myself in the US for the first time, experiencing for the first time in my life financial scarcity. I found a job. I was a waitress. I also did a tutoring at my college. I was first because I realized that I had issues paying for school, so I first went to a community college in Alexandria, Virginia. Then I went to a English as second language before university, but part of a university in Washington, D.C. I live in Adams Morgan. I was in Adams Morgan. I hung out in DuPont Circle, Georgetown, etc. and then I moved to New York a couple of years later. I experienced scarcity because I realized that all of my curses and demons were coming to the surface. I don't think you're going to be able to hear me in this video because of the music. Maybe I'll tell the story later. But let me finish this part. So I experienced scarcity, money scarcity. Struggling, looking for an apartment while I was an international student, so I didn't have even the right to work. I was a waitress and I was paid in cash. The thing is, I had my background, I had my pedigree. I never drank alcohol, but I had seen all kinds of alcohols because we had a catering service in my home. So when I worked at that restaurant in DuPont Circle, I remember I didn't know alcohol and I could barely speak English. And within 2 weeks, the manager moved me from working in the back to being at the front. He was like, your demeanor, you look aristocratic. And basically when people would ask me, what's good here? I just pointed what I know. I pointed the mouette et chandon champagne. I said you should have the Key Royal. Anything that I recommended people was always champagne based. So my manager, who's actually now the owner of that place, was actually making a lot of money off of me. So he really pushed me to the front. Started hitting on me and things like that. So that wasn't so nice. I ended up quitting. But anyways, I didn't stay in scarcity for a very long time because my mindset was different. I may not have had the money financially in my bank account, but I was never poor in my mind. So everything that I did, my money-making decisions, were always based on investment, long term. Something that I've been doing today is not for instant gratification. I would buy clothes that looked classic and timeless, even if they didn't cost much. And I ended up saving up to go to New York, and I studied at a good university in New York. I studied political science, and then very fast I entered the United Nations. I was recruited by the UN. I was the youngest actually in my team. All of that I owe to my mindset. When I moved to New York, I lived in Spanish Harlem at first because I moved there during the summer, so I didn't live on campus. My campus from my college was at Rose Hill, and also we had a campus at the Lincoln Center. But for that summer, I lived in Spanish Harlem. And there, because my looks are ambiguous, a lot of people spoke to me in Spanish, thinking I was Dominican, Puerto Rican, Cuban, Brazilian. When I said that I couldn't speak Spanish, they said, "Oh, okay, you're Brazilian." And I would say, no, I speak French. And then a lot of the abuelitas in my blog would tell me, "Why didn't your parents teach you Spanish?" I said, "Well, because they don't speak Spanish. We're not Latinos. So I'm not an Afro-Latina." And I lived there, and it was a very precarious environment. And I got to realize that my programming of guilt when it came to being privileged was very false, because I saw a lot of poor people who were really bad people, who had really bad morals. So for me, I realized I was wrong all this time, because having money is just an enabler to something that you already are. If you're bad, if you're mean, if you're an arrogant person, you will be that whether you're poor or rich. So it really healed this mentality of me thinking of healing that rich people just exploit other people, because I had seen firsthand that all of the poor people who were despicable, people that I saw fighting over $5, or people who were willing to harm you just for the sake of nothing, or people being jealous of you, girls being jealous of me, gossiping about me when I knew nothing about that neighborhood. I wasn't even a Latina. I couldn't even speak. I spoke English. I spoke Spanish that I learned in school, so I couldn't speak the Spanish from a Boricua. And they would just be horrible people. So it helped me heal pretty fast and realize, okay, being rich is, first of all, power. When you're poor, you don't have access, period. Access to nothing. I spoke about the access to the restaurant, right? It's just a small example. You can't solve any problem when you're poor. When you're poor, if your kid has an issue, you can't go and knock at doors, and the probability of people to answer you and help you is very low. You don't have any power to influence any decision. You don't have even the power to help other people the way my mom has been doing for the past 4 or 5 decades. Money is freedom, because I've met kings and queens of this world. My stepdad, if you don't know, when I say I come from a political family, my biological dad was in diplomacy. If you don't know, fun fact about me, I have a big brother who now lives in Canada, but who's from Trinidad and Tobago. My dad had been there in diplomacy. He had traveled extensively in Central and Latin America, places like Panama, places like Cuba, and the islands, the Caribbean islands. So he had a relationship with a woman who is of Indian descent from Trinidad and Tobago, and I have a brother, a big brother, Hilaire. And he now lives in Canada. My dad was in diplomacy in Bahrain. He was in diplomacy all over the world. He died when I was very young. I was 10, 11 years old. And my stepdad is of a political background, political family. His last name, if I tell you his last name, you wouldn't know it because he is the direct cousin of the second president of my country, which again, for me was sweet and sour because yes, I saw a lot of good people, but I also was exposed to a lot of bad things that was enabled by a system that was very corrupt. But not everyone, like I said, was a bad person, but I was exposed to some of the bad things, which hardened and strengthened my guilt and my scarcity mindset when it came to being exposed to privileged people. But I grew up in what we call the palais, so the court, which is basically where the family of the president, because my dad being the cousin of the president, I was with the children of the president and the family of the president. I was one of them. There was no difference between us. So I grew up with them. They grew up with me. We know each other. I mean, it's family. So I would be present at all of the international sort of things where we would see royals coming for different events, other heads of states coming, different types of, if I told you the list of celebrities that I've met in my life, from Michael Jackson, Naomi Campbell, you name it. Because whenever they came to our country, whether it was for an event, a concert, a charity thing, it was most likely organized by the presidential family or the kids of the presidential family. I met a funny thing. Actually, one of the funniest people that I met, he may not remember me, is he has a song with Beyonce a long time ago. Sean Paul. He's a little bit like my complexion, had like cornrows, and I saw him going to our grandma, Patience Dabani, who was the mother, or the wife of the president back then, and the mother of the son president who took over in my country. And she's a singer as well, very well known in Africa. Au revoir. Au revoir, bonne journée. Au revoir. À bientôt.